The meeting called to order at 5:33 p.m. I'll take roll call. Sean Barroweden.
Present.
Dustin Pasteur.
Here.
Ryan Meisner.
Here.
Nicole Winkler. Absent. Ray Wong.
Here.
Mary Beth Williams present. First item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody online? Okay, so none. First action item is approval of the June 2026 minutes. We have a copy of those.
Yes, I read those. I'll move to approve the June minutes. Second that.
Dustin motioned, Ray second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes of the June 2026 meeting have been approved. Just for roll call purposes, Nicole is now present. So we have all CAC members in attendance today. Do you want to skip over speakers for a moment, or we'll just pause?
No, okay, that's fine. Good evening, the Craig Tampa CRA Director. I'm not Courtney Orr. Ms. Orr has been under the weather recently, so I'm running the meeting on her behalf this evening. So I have customarily provided some of the project trackers. You have in front of you the tracker from the special projects team, and that is any of the projects or funding requests that were facilitated through the downtown CRA and CAC. And then also you have the commercial grant tracker, which highlights some of the requests for information and or grants that have been approved or in process. So I know that Ms. Orr normally presents them to you via the email, but I did request that our admin team print out some hard copies just to kind of give you a synopsis of where things are currently. And I'll pause for any questions, and if I don't know, I'll get back with you as quickly as possible.
On this one,
Yes.
the grants that are labeled inactive, are those dead?
Yes, for the most part, they probably started the process, and we have individuals that will come in, or applicants, and they'll start the consultation process, and then they find out that, hey, we're not ready yet. We need to do some more information, or we have to do some more due diligence, and or they just may say this is not for us. We don't, necessarily the terms and conditions may be more than we're ready to take on at this particular point in time. So then they always have the option to come back and reapply.
Okay, and what does the lead status? What does that mean?
So the lead status means that, they've come in through our online portal and then, requested information. We may have had a consultation meeting, but they're just not there where they've actually submitted a formal application. And then we have staff that will follow up with them to see if they have any questions. And normally it's somewhere in the neighborhood of bi-weekly or monthly basis, just to kind of keep the conversation going. And, it's more of a due diligence on our part to make sure that we're providing an excellent level of customer service to the applicants. And, it is challenging somewhat because of some of the proximity in the CRAs and the price points for some of the development. So we want to make sure that we're having ongoing conversations and contacting those applicants or interested parties.
For context, I have knowledge of the last one, and they met with them to pitch an idea and it did not qualify for the dollars.
Got it.
So inactive. I guess they're tracking every request that's come in, regardless of if it even qualifies.
Into the Riverwalk on there, which is why I was wondering. Yeah, we met with the team.
Oh, interesting.
It was a while ago though, so it might have been more mistracking was really.
Right. Any other questions on those? Well, I also will point out, and I kind of shared it earlier before some folks were in the room, the commercial grants team will be coming to the September meetings for all of the CACs to discuss the programs and following the updates that the board approved at the June CRA board meeting. So they'll be able to discuss and walk through all of those proposed changes and or approved changes by the CRA board so that, you know, the CACs ultimately have a level of understanding. You know, based on the amount, if it's anything over $150,000, then it would, you know, ultimately come to you all. But if there's a interior or exterior grant for $75,000, administratively, that would be handled by staff. So, but they'll talk to you all about all of those intricacies of the policy update and the commercial grants and special projects at the September meeting. So more to come on that, but we want to make sure that the CAC members have some kind of cursory understanding, because I mean, you were aware of a grant applicant that's listed there. Individuals may come out to you or reach out to you as a CAC member and say, hey, what can you tell me about this? Oh, well, this is what you need to do. That is the point of contact. You know, these are the confines, and not to go into like in-depth explanation. Hopefully you all will continue to refer them to staff, but we want you all to have some understanding of the grant projects and programs that we can do statutorily within the downtown CAC.
Until this happened, somebody asked me and I said, oh yeah, you can get in touch with your team. They can vet whether or not it works, you know, and if it applies, and that's what they did.
Right.
It's good.
And the only other thing that I would mention under this portion of the agenda would be that the summer newsletter will be coming out. So that'll be hitting your emails hopefully sometime early part of September. And you know, we will be focusing on projects and the like across all of our CRAs. So I'm sure downtown will be highlighted.
Do you have any, I thought Courtney had told me that there were some applications for the downtown CRA CAC.
Yes, I believe there's one that is going to the board. It's gone through the process. I think it was downtown. And it may be the August 20th meeting. Don't quote me, but I can find out.
Yeah. How many? Two?
Two. Both of those are at-large positions,
I believe so, yes.
or
Well,
the partnership, that's a ex officio.
yes, that is ex officio. And then the gentleman, Omar, I believe you mentioned his name, because he did respond to the email that I sent last week and said, oh, I'm out of the country. And I didn't realize he was still on the list. But yeah, so I believe his was at large.
Yeah, so one at large and one
Correct.
ex officio. And I think the partnership is discussing
Okay,
their participation
okay.
because of the one rule that says if you're on the committee.
Hopefully we'll have some light at the end of the tunnel on that sooner than later.
And will that be discussed in August?
At the CRA board?
Yes.
No. It initially was supposed to be discussed on the council side. I believe they just received the file. They didn't mention it during the course of the meeting, but so it may be coming back up. Mr. Clendenin, maybe 2 months ago, did ask CRA staff to work with the appropriate city staff as they're reviewing all of the boards and commissions and policies that govern those. So I'm just waiting to get an invite to the party, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be coming up sooner than later.
On this CRA housing initiative dashboard, what does HRRP stand for?
HRRP is Housing Rehab and Renovation Program.
Okay.
So each CRA, there's 5 different sections: strategic acquisitions, housing rehab and renovation, down payment assistance, and infill and unit creation and conversion. I may be missing one.
So for unit creation, is it, do you know the AMI that takes to qualify?
So ideally for the funding the board has approved, it would be up to, on the low end 80%, but it can go up to 140.
Okay.
For downtown, and they just approved the funding agreement for the LD&D Domo. And I think that came before you probably sometime last year, and there was a lot of communication between their attorneys and our legal representation to land the plane on that. But the board just approved that agreement. And I think that was for 30 units. And it was from the downtown in the Encore area.
Okay, great.
It's different different award amounts based on AMI. So you get a certain amount, if you do 80% AMI, you're
Yeah, we're building one right now in the county, not in the city, and it's 100%, 100 or less.
okay.
170 units.
I don't know.
No,
Grants like that.
but I'm looking at a site in the city
Okay.
for a much larger one.
That's gonna see her.
Yeah.
Yeah, the LD&D project got funding like in design. So
Mhm.
I know the Whiting Street one that came before us, they were already finished construction and they converted some units to affordable from market rate. But you might even be able to do it during.
Yes, the 801 Whiting site, and I just got an update from Ms. Parks last week. I believe they have several individuals that are going through the income qualification review process now for those units. So there's been a lot of interest in those units.
I guess that takes us through staff reports, new business, any announcements from CIC members? We're just gonna work backwards.
No, that's fine. Yeah, well,
Is it okay if we talk a little bit or maybe just kind of share what you may know with regards to Tampa Union Station project and sort of the status of that? I think it was just in the news recently.
So if you drive by, we have, the scaffolding's up, they are working on the windows, doors. The building was first tinted because there was quite a bit of termite damage. And for the individuals who may not know, the CRA board approved a little over $4 million to go towards the rehab of Tampa Union Station, right at the intersection of Cass and Nebraska. So our LAM or Logistics and Asset Management Department is kind of running point. The CRA is the funding source. There also was, it took some time, and I think there was some back and forth between Amtrak and the contractor that's working on the project, the rehab project for the building. But they did relocate the ticket booth or window internal to an outside modular unit on somewhere on the to the south of the tracks on a platform, so that individuals can go there as opposed to going inside. But there is, we're moving quickly and seeing some of the invoices come through. So it is moving, and I think it's a long time coming. I think the friends of the of Union Station and some other interested parties has probably been at least discussed for a decade or more.
Yeah.
So the fact that that is moving, and then we're also, there'll be a cultural arts piece to it as well, and that'll also be funded through the CRA.
Looks like they just selected the artist for that July. Jackson House is delayed again.
So it is delayed. That funding agreement will be going to the board in August. So we can't talk about that now because
He's not here yet.
he's not here. Okay. So yes, the funding agreement
He'll be here in 2 minutes.
Thank you. We'll be going to the board for their final approval. And so we're looking forward to getting that moving. And there will be some, I think there's some timelines that we added to the funding agreement as well to kind of encourage them to move. But so, anytime you drive by, just physically look at it, like, oh my goodness. So
It doesn't fall down before we can get our agreements in order.
but Dr. Collins and her team are very enthusiastic, and we can look forward to working with them to move the process along. And this is Mr. Samuel Thomas. Mr. Thomas is the legislative aide for Council Chair Clinton, who's going to grace us with his presence this
Sorry,
this evening.
Like he fell off, it started at 6. There he is.
There you go.
See, in the Tampa traffic, somebody really should do something about this.
All rise. Good evening, sir.
I got them warmed up for you.
Oh, Lord.
And, you can go ahead and start, and we got some folks online that are waiting.
Hello, folks online.
Hello.
Hello.
Peter.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alan. Well, I just, I kind of wanted to drop by because, I don't normally go to, or most of us don't go to the CRA meetings because the CAC meetings with the CRA because we're kind of, defeats the purpose. Because we get to get y'all's recommendations to the dais, but I wanted to, because it's part of the downtown's been a lot of my public agenda. And I thought it'd be good to come and get y'all's feedback on things that I've been pushing, make sure that I'm in line with where you guys are at. Obviously, the streetcar extension was something that was really big, important for me, and I've been driving that agenda since day one. And it was dead when I first took office, and we've dug it up, and that's rapidly moving forward and progressing fairly well at this point. We've got the outside consultants finishing some of the details on things that have to be completed before we shovels in the ground. But those of you who don't know, it'll go underneath the Fort Brook, and then go up Florida, turn left on Emily, right the street right before Columbus, and then turn southbound on Tampa Street. It'll initially be going down on the west side of Tampa Street, but will transition to the east side because of FDOT and the exit on 275. They need to transition to the east side before they get underneath the interstate because of line of sight issues. So then as it goes through downtown corridor, it's going to be on the east side of the interstate. That pretty much is for that. I've been also taking, I've been working with Downtown Partnership, but one of my big agenda items too, and I've been working with HART, and this is quickly going to happen, is Marion Street. The city of Tampa is going to retake over Marion Street as a normal street. They'll still run buses on it, but we'll be able to run traffic on it as well to get people an additional north south corridor through the street, and also signal to the development community that it's open for business. So we have some more forward facing buildings and construction along that stuff instead of the back facing stuff that we've seen. I think one of the things that the Downtown Partnership was looking at, and I'm kind of supporting that, is how do we envision what that street is do we want to make it like an arts district, or do we want to make it like a restaurant? I mean, is there something else about bigger, some way we can bonus and develop it in a certain way, the way we want to see? And that's kind of an open book at this point. My objective was just getting the street open because it was one of those things, like for Franklin, when it was pedestrian street, it was one of those 1970s things. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and it failed. We reopened it. Marion was the same thing. It was something that was a theory and practice never actually worked as a transit corridor. It was never a practice. So for decades, it's been floundering. So if it doesn't work, pivot, try something different. I've been working and trying to get folks to bite on, from the state of Florida, on the state of Florida building on Franklin and that big gigantic sea of asphalt they have up there. So I tried to get them when they're doing the Doge to get them to Doge it away to flip it, because those are the employees up there, they could work anywhere. They don't have to work downtown, and they don't, if they did, they could work at, they could at least have the spaces, because they're controlling the entire city block up there for really not the highest and best use. That's another one, a big agenda. I'm still working on it. Every time I talk with somebody with the state, I've got other partners now working with it as well, and also elected officials trying to get them to do something there. The river walk, I've been kind of passively at first. When I first got into office, I was aggressively and more passively trying to, when it was first envisioned, when Mayor Buckhorn was in office, he did not want to, quote unquote, junk up the river walk. So we don't have activated space. So I'm trying to be able to figure out a way to activate space so we can have either themed, like little streetcar kiosks or something, whatever it is. Some people have thrown out the cargo containers, which I think is kind of overdone, but something along the river walk in some strategic places where we could provide opportunities for vendors and people to get something to, drink or something to eat along the river walk. That's been my agenda. And then the other big thing that why I'm here today is, prior to me coming on council, this council passed a rule that they set aside 30% of the CRA funds for affordable housing. And my observation is it kind of harkens back to what I just said about Marion Street, where it sounded like a good idea at the time. And it sounds very altruistic, but in practice, in areas like downtown Channelside and Ybor City, the dirt is so expensive. There's so many other variables that when you think of a dollar for dollar, what you can get for that dollar, as for the people that are living in that area, that maybe this is a time to pivot from that agenda because it doesn't work very well. And in the city of Tampa, 80% AMI is basically coming down about market right now because of how we're built out. So there's not a lot of room there. And we have all of the housing by the new Publix on the other side of the interstate. We had the RFP for the affordable housing on the Army, Navy, and the Royal parking lots. Of course, you've got Central Park, which is, we've got a lot of affordable housing. So we have, especially for the downtown area, we've got quite a bit of opportunity downtown already. And that 30%, I think, could be used for enhancing green space, doing something like a linear park along Marion Street, I think there's a whole bunch of other things could be enhancement, helping with the streetcar expansion, things that could actually really work for folks that are living in the downtown CRA area, as opposed to that. And again, it's just my observation that specifically in those 3 CRAs, that while it was a good idea, and it just probably it doesn't do the highest and best rate of return for the people that are living in the area. And I kind of wanted to be here tonight to kind of throw that out there because a lot of this is me pontificating or having that discussion in my own head or saying it from the dais, but not really engaging folks on it. I know when I first got in, I engaged a lot about the streetcar with the downtown folks, but that was 3 years ago. And since it's been 3 years since I've had that kind of engagement, but that's kind of my downtown. Did I miss anything in my downtown strategy? I think I missed everything else. Yeah, about everything else. Yeah. So what are you guys thinking?
Are you thinking of doing away with the 30% altogether or just lowering it to maybe 15?
I just think in those 3 CRAs, it's a futile attempt to do something. And the cost of the dirt, the cost of construction, the cost of everything is just so high that so the amount of subsidy we have to subsidize per unit for being in the central business district in the downtown area is just so high, where we can have affordable housing in East Tampa, West Tampa, and other areas of town for a fraction of the cost, because it's like Channelside. I mean, what would we have to have, like $500,000 a unit subsidy in Channelside to be able to create affordable housing? That's just such a big, where if you take that same amount of money, in my mind, you take that same amount of money and invest it in either transportation, public parks, some of whatever we can legally do that is a greatest amount of good for greatest amount of people, which is, kind of how I approach the public office, greatest amount of good for greatest amount of people. I think it's probably just be the highest and best use of that cash. Again, in areas like East Tampa, West Tampa, and Drew Park, we still have opportunities. We don't really have those. I forgot in Tampa Heights, we don't really have that opportunity either. We're sitting on the big pile of cash that it's just, and I will say, this is kind of putting the cart before the horse, because we do have CRA staff that is trying to basically to cast a wide net. Here shortly, they're going to report back to the CRA, the council/CRA members, if they're able to catch something in that net. I'm doubtful without it looking like a giant. I mean, because practically speaking, the dirt is just so expensive. So for us to be able to build a housing unit downtown, it's going to be an enormous giveaway of cash versus, again, something we could spend to provide some resources to the downtown residents, green space or, something else that, in some of the economic engine kind of activity downtown. It's just the dirt, y'all know what the prices are down here. It's crazy. And the cost of, that's what I try to tell folks, we're living in a one world economy, where as long as these economic engines are happening like China, the world, the cost of concrete is the cost of concrete, the cost of nails, the cost of nails, all these things are fixed costs. You can't change it. It is what it is. It's a world market. And so the construction cost is what the construction cost is. So the only variable really is the cost of the dirt and where the dirt is. Because if I'm gonna build a building, it's gonna be X number of dollars per square foot per unit. And, you know, if I'm gonna spend $50 million on or $42 million, is that what that lot went for? And downtown, $42 million on the lot over here, you know. You're gonna have to spend a lot of money to get it down to an AMI of public money. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've been carrying the 30% for like 3 or 4 years, it feels like. And I think we've had 2 requests come in to ask for it.
Third year.
Yeah, we've had 2 in like 3 or 4 years, and one of them we denied because it didn't even make a good pitch for what it was intended for.
Right.
It was mostly a market rate. And I think the other one we approved, I don't know if it got built, but the point is, like, in downtown, the number of requests has been almost none.
Yeah.
There's just been a couple because the opportunities are very limited here.
Yeah, so that, again, I'll go back to my Marion Street pitch, is you keep doing the same thing over and over again. You know, if it fails, it fails, it fails. Let's pivot and do something else and figure out a better way. Because again, and those dollars, with every year, the dollars buy less and less with inflation and the cost of everything. You know, if you had $10 million in the bank 5 years ago, you're only getting, you know, $7.5 million worth of value out of it today.
Yeah.
So not spending it is compounding the problem.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting it because it's just sitting there not working for you. And nothing's getting cheaper.
I would hate to see the program go away completely, but I do think like the 30% is a lot of our budget, and all, like you're saying, said, a lot of it's not being used, so just rolling over year after year. But there are some units being created, and I mean, as downtown grows up and there's more retail, and they're like having a place for some people to live downtown that can't afford, you know, the market rate is nice to have.
Well, you know, we're doing it with the Army Navy store right now. We're doing it without a subsidy because we're giving them the dirt. Again, it's the dirt. It's so expensive. So they're getting well, they're not giving them the dirt, but we're giving it for a discount. You've got it in Central Park, which is basically downtown. So you've got how many units are down there?
Central Park.
Well, Encore.
Oh, 30. Yeah, we just talked about that.
Yeah, Encore. So I mean, for all practical purposes, while it's for CRA, it's part of our, central business district. And there's a lot of affordable housing in there. You've got a lot of affordable housing up here. So between the Army Navy store, Royal Street, they all have affordable housing on the other side of the interstate, and Encore. There's a quite a proportionate amount. And again, it just depends on how comfortable you are. Are you willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit subsidy versus if you could take that same amount of money and enhance transportation services or something else, if you're to be able to enhance, something else to be able to benefit people, what is the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people? And I agree I'm not advocating removing, potential affordable housing in the city of Tampa, because we still have areas, again, like I said, in East Tampa and West Tampa and Drew Park and Sulphur Springs and other areas that we need to have affordable housing programs, which we do. And we also need to have, programs where we can help folks in those areas. And I've said this pitch for this 100 times, stay in their houses so seniors can age in place, so that we can help them with roof repairs and things like that in these areas that really, really need it. So those are the areas that I think is really, as far as a social agenda for the city of Tampa, of staying true to our values, ensuring that we have the cash resources available to those populations, I think are really critically important. But it's to me, it's we're beating our head up against a cement wall in these really high cost of dirt areas. To be able to force a square peg, it's tough to beat the market. It's just for the government. It's very difficult to beat the market. The market's gonna dictate the cost of things, and it's just the government just has a hard time beating that.
I'll say I don't think we can do much for transportation with our CRA funding. I mean, I guess we could give some money to the streetcar. But this does feel like one of the few ways that we could impact people socially in a real way. Like right now, the other 70% of our budget is like going to stress center, using our Water Street, gas works, which is good for obviously the economic development of the city. But I don't know if it's really like helping people in their quality of life directly in terms of like the lower income folks. So it does feel like this is like one of the few programs that our downtown CRA has that can like directly help people live better.
And a pitch for what you just described, the STRAS. So when we awarded the money for the STRAS, we also got a community benefits agreement. So they actually have thousands of students from our poor areas of the city go through their programs and be able to take classes and programs that they would not have been able to take had it not been that type of funding. And the same thing for the museum and now it's not your CRA, the aquarium, the same thing. We have these benefits. So it seems like a complete subsidy, but we're actually also buying services. So we're buying services. We're underprivileged youth in areas of the city that just never have the ability to take a dance class or never have the ability to, take an art class or go through these things, or they will actually they'll bring buses of students in and comp them into performances so that they can have the opportunity to see performing arts. So there is, on the surface, it sounds like, oh, this is a bougie thing, but the city, we actually were able to get a really good community benefits agreements with all of those cultural institutions to be able to support folks from, these specifically kids that wouldn't have had that opportunity to do it without those facilities. So it's a good partnership, for lack of a better word, partnership between them all. But yeah, the transportation thing, the streetcar thing, I mean, I think that the world's, it's kind of a open book. I mean, there are obviously a lot of restrictions, which Cliff Shepard would tell me all the things I can't. All these lawyers, that's one thing you learn when you get elected. Everybody tells you what you can't do. So like, tell me what I can do. No, they're always there to tell me what I can't do. Because your best ideas in the world, lawyers will shoot you down. But I feel again that there's got to be an opportunity to pivot on this because the money is just sitting there. It's been sitting there. It's not for lack of trying. It's not for staff lack of trying. I mean, you try, and it doesn't come up, and it can come up empty-handed year after year after year after year. When you just say, you know what, maybe this isn't the right place and the right place to spend the resources.
I think like the first 2 years we got 0 applicants, and then I think we had like 3
with big subsidies.
I feel like
Over
it's starting to move in the right direction in terms of like people, developers need to know about it. Yeah, I think it's like $225,000 a unit.
Yeah.
It's not 400.
Yeah.
It's not.
One came through with like 450, and I laughed. I mean, $450,000 a unit. I'm like, you can get it for $450,000 subsidy out. I'm moving tomorrow. And I tell people all the time, obviously there's different agendas and people who are elected and all, but my thing is that the city's a big city. We have categories for everyone. I mean, I want to live on the golf course, I live on the beach, but I can't afford it and I don't. There are stratus of places to live and for different people based on their income levels and their levels of success to live in a capitalist society. But I just feel like when I look around downtown, I think that we've done a decent job of providing. Well, in the Army Navy, I don't know if y'all know this. It was one of my agendas. I got the dormitory room set aside in that construction for kids. Specifically, it was targeted at the STRAS observatory for the kids that come down. But it's open to any cultural institution that has like youth programs, because we had a problem where, again, cost of living. So let's say these kids came down and they can't afford to, they're from underprivileged areas and they can't afford to go they could go to take a class, but they can't afford to stay anywhere downtown. We had a real big housing problem for the kids for the conservatory. So we've set aside units for them, which I also think brings an interesting dynamic of the different mix of age groups into downtown too. That was part of the agenda of trying to get some younger people instead of all older people in very bougie, rich condominiums, since we're building a lot of those recently. Very expensive condos. Well, that's kind of all I wanted to talk to you guys about and kind of dump it on y'all lap for discussions, future discussions, and considerations. You guys have anything for me?
Can you maybe share, some of the concerns that you and your team and city council are seeing with regards to obviously concerns with the real estate and property taxes and the possibility of that sort of going through, what are your immediate concerns with regards to that?
I don't know if anybody's watched the news, but the language, the ballot language was thrown out and declared unconstitutional today. The Udmeyer has 10 days to rewrite the ballot, and not the bill language, but the ballot language, because they considered it to be deceitful and misleading, blah, blah, a whole laundry list of in which it was. I actually don't believe that there is a snowball's chance in hell of it passing. Brady Judge came out today and against it. When the legislature, DeSantis thinking he wants to be president, created this concept and pitched it, and then the legislature picked it up and passed something that didn't look like what Ron DeSantis wanted. So Ron DeSantis is not pitching for it. They also inserted a poison pill as they did not exempt police and fire. And I think in some ways in my calculated minds that they did that intentionally so they could say, hey, we proposed a property tax reduction, knowing that it really wouldn't work because you don't exempt police and fire. So I think there was some intention there, if not. So when you don't exempt police and fire come out against it, it's to reach the threshold of 60% is just, it's a real difficult thing to do. And I don't see that happening. For property taxes in the city of Tampa, our property taxes property taxes are just a piece of our income. I think we're just 26%, I think is what we anticipated what this would cost. But again, I don't see it happening. I'm not quite honestly, I think we've all seen that we live in a crazy state, and every time that the legislature gets together, anything could happen. So it's very difficult to think about the what ifs in a state that I wake up every morning, and the what ifs that seemed to be improbable yesterday are now probable and on the table today. So I just keep, in my mind, as in my duties as a member of city council, I just keep plugging forward with today's realities and figured if something happens tomorrow, I'll just pivot. It's just I would have never believed that certain things are happening, but they are. I wouldn't have believed that we had to dig up crosswalks, but we did. It's like, there's things it's just crazy. It's just craziness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In one final thing I want to say, in defense of the affordable housing program, we have some numbers in front of us showing in downtown we got 30 units for 5.4 million, and in East Tampa they got 31 units for 5 million. We also got 22 units for 4 million, and East Tampa they got 20 units for 3.5 million. So I mean, the per unit cost is pretty comparable.
You have to look at what the AMI is to be able to really accurately compare them.
Yeah, I would love if the 120 AMI was removed.
Yeah.
And maybe made it 60, 80, 100 or even.
But I mean, to compare those numbers, you'd have to look at like what did that $5 million buy as far as AMI, because it could be a $400,000 a unit subsidy, or it could be
$120,000. I think the max is like 200.
Well, I mean, when you amortize it over the cost of the 30 years, because you're buying down the cost of the unit. I mean, Cedric might be able to talk more about that, but it's the cost of unit over time that really, and how many bedrooms, and there's. Where's Miss Parks when we need her?
Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, she's lovely, and she does her best. And I know she's swung hard for downtown, trying to make affordable housing. And it's again, when the private sector is willing to spend $42 million on a block of downtown dirt. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It just doesn't work. I mean, the land like we have, so we had the Army Navy store that we purchased years ago, and then we had the parking lots that were legacy holdings. We weren't subject to the modern day prices on those. So, I mean, some would say, hey, we should have sold them for market value and did something else with the money in the city, but we chose to use those assets for affordable housing. But if we're going out there attempting to procure land in downtown that we don't currently own, and then asking a builder to come in and build, that if you're starting out on a baseline of 42 million for a block, I just can't even imagine what that looks like. I mean, it's what the market is right now. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Anything else? Okay, well, I think I have News Channel 8 out there waiting for me, so I will go and guess what it's about.
No raise?
Exactly. All about it. It's the Rays has taken over my life. As I told people, I said, I don't own the baseball team. I have no ownership. I don't have any land in Drew Park. I don't even like baseball. How? You see, so I go, you're wondering how I got here. It's like economic development. Yeah. Okay. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
Did you guys introduce, you get introduced yourself?
We took care of it.
Okay, good.
Except there's always got.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Dan, if you'd like to go ahead and present now.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciated being able to speak to you, I think a few months ago now, a couple months ago, about the quote unquote Army Navy land transaction that we, PMG, in partnership with Tampa Housing Authority and Bank of America, were procured on to buy that site and develop that site. We've now since gotten unanimous city council approval as of last week to proceed with the transaction. So the last time that I presented to you, I said that I would come back with an update when I had new pertinent information. So I wanted to get back in as soon as we got city council approval last week. So just to take you through a brief presentation as a reminder who we are. PMG is a national in scope residential developer. We develop anywhere from kind of the highest end condos, some of the tallest buildings in the world in New York and Miami, to thousands of units of affordable housing across multiple states, and especially in Florida and Central Florida. We are the development partner of Tampa Housing Authority on Robles Park Village, which will be 2,000 unit redevelopment of Tampa Housing Authority's last large public housing development. We've been very successful in kind of figure out ways to financially expedite that project. So we're actually have 3 vertical development phases, fully financed and ready to begin construction over the next 9 months, the first of which will break ground in November. Would love to invite you to that groundbreaking. We'll be developing 600 units of affordable housing simultaneously. Again, those 3 phases south of Lake Avenue will be starting together over the next 9 months, which is kind of unprecedented in these types of large redevelopments to have that many phases going in finance simultaneously. You can see kind of the product in the schematics, in the conceptual design that we have to the right. These are going to be beautiful buildings. They would look like high-end market rate buildings to you, but they will be priced to affordable levels. These will be largely averaging 60% AMI and less, with these buildings capped out at 80% AMI in terms of the residents. These 3 in particular, we will have market rate units and kind of 80 to 140% AMI units as well, but these 3 first phases will be all 80% AMI and below. Next slide. This is just a very rough mock-up of what the site plan currently looks like for the Army Navy transaction and Army Navy site. We'll be figuring out a new rebrand probably of the whole development. So would love your feedback on that. We're just at the beginning process of thinking what that should look like. We're very cognizant of the fact that this is a gateway site, a super important site for downtown and the CBD. It's obviously the first site that you see coming downtown on Tampa as you cross under the underpass. So we take, a lot of responsibility for the fact that this will be a very important site. It'll be a connecting site, both north to south and south to north. So a north-south connecting site, but also when the Ashley Street ramp work is done, it'll really be a connector site east and west. So we want to set this site up to be a true mixed income community. We've committed to 1,150 units minimum, but I think we'll probably be developing more like 13 or 1,400 units here. We've committed to 800 of those units being affordably and attainably priced. I think around 600 units will be 80% AMI and below. About 200 units will be between 80 and 140% AMI. We have already begun the process immediately of preparing for the funding opportunities. They're called Florida Housing RFAs. Essentially, there are several funding windows that open usually in the second half of the year for affordable housing development. So we will be looking to make multiple applications for some of the northern phases of the project. Some of the southern land will be impacted by the Ashley Street project work that will be going on. So for example, the southern buildings that you see on this site plan, which will be more high-rise in nature, more 25 to 40 stories, kind of blending with the existing skyline. Those will be developed later because, frankly, some of the land area associated with those lots will be created by the Ashley Street work that will be going on. Like right now, there's a ramp structure that actually goes through a portion of that lower site. So we will focus on the areas kind of labeled A, B, and maybe the northern part of C. We make that into two buildings rather than the one building that's shown there. And again, we think that this site will connect naturally over to Franklin Street as that corridor is developed, hopefully with retail and more mixed use and residential, and over to, the cultural centers of the Straz and the lifestyle areas of the Riverwalk. We think this is going to be a great catalyst site for all of north of downtown. Let's go to the next. Obvious, we'll have all of the obvious high-end amenities there: parking, swimming pools, swimming decks. We will build to high-level sustainability and resilient standards. There'll be secured bike rooms in every building, obviously fitness centers and resident lounges in all the buildings. We are programming as many kind of linear pocket parks as we can in this site. Looking to really south of Fortune there, create a nice potential pocket park there or area that kind of connects in the existing bus stop, and that's where the streetcar will stop across the street on Tampa. So creating a little transportation node there with some public space. We want to activate this site with smartly located and well-leased retail space. Ronan, maybe you can go back to one of the slides that shows, so the purple areas kind of show, that's a good slide there. This is obviously a dead site right now. It's a parking lot. There's no reason to be there. We're going to change that. There's tremendous opportunity along Harrison as it'll be newly configured along, Tampa Street, going up and maybe even going into some of these side streets, taking advantage of some of the parks that we're going to, consider pursuing. And, we would envision this as a really kind of connected, pedestrian-friendly, bike-friendly site. Again, really connected to the things to the west, the Straz, the Riverwalk, connected to the east, Franklin, and north-south to the CBD. So that would be our vision, and I'm not sure if we have any further slides around. I think this may be, and again, same thing, just kind of fostering connectivity, leaving, kind of some kind of a dash hub component there, streetcar stop program for across the street on Tampa, promoting connection east to the Marion Transit Center, upgrading the bus stop that's there, the covered seating area there, bike rooms, public bike racks. So that would be our vision. We would love to, we can stop sharing now, Ronan. Thank you. Would love to talk to you about kind of needs of the project, opportunities to make the project better, maybe to do more affordable housing. So I think I'm coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective than Chairman Clendenin just came at it from, but obviously respect him tremendously, appreciated his support on this project. So really just wanted to come back to you and update you on where we were and see if there was a way to, start a conversation around potentially, accessing funds, partnering with you to make this vision even better than we've conceived to date.
Great project.
Thank you.
They considered in downtown. So the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, we really, as a firm, I'm a believer in North Downtown. I think, if you look at the city with Franklin Street there and the aesthetic of that street, I think there's a tremendous opportunity to develop all the way over from Marion over to Army Navy, and just from I guess Polk up. There's a tremendous amount of developable land there, and we would like to use this as a catalyst site. Chairman Clendenin mentioned that state-owned site. We're also kind of pursuing that through separate paths. So I'm a believer in North Downtown, and I think it's probably, as he said, it's probably the logical spot to locate a good amount of affordable and workforce housing there, just given the prices that exist. And, it's not going to be Channel Side. It doesn't look Ebor's going in that direction. Gasworks, these are all very high-end projects. I think North Downtown can be beautiful and high-end, but I think it can have a fair share of housing that people who can work downtown can actually live in.
So, Mr. Cogley, good evening, Cedric McCray, Tampa CRA Director. I'm sitting in from Ms. Ori. I know you probably got copied on some of the emails that were going back and forth. I think I'm hearing that there may be a potential ask, and we just so that we don't put the cart before the horse, we do have a process in place where there is an application that needs to be filled out, and then it will come to the CAC for their recommendation before it goes to the CRA board. What I can do is ask Ms. Parks, who is our housing, and she was just mentioned a few moments ago about Mr. Clendenin, to reach out to you, and then we can set up a time to kind of talk through that process as it relates to downtown specifically, and then go from there.
Yeah, Mr. McCray, I appreciate that. I certainly don't mean to do anything out of school. I wanted to come back, give an update on the project, kind of just express our high level interest, and whether it would be okay to engage on that front. So that would be awesome.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
I hope you feel better.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I had to do this virtually. Thank you.
So I have a conflict of picking up my son and then to leave, but great seeing you all.
I think we're
done.
I think we are done. Do
Yes,
you
have a good night.
have anything else?
No, I said my piece. Yeah, and hopefully Ms. Orr will be back in place through September.
Anybody else? Anything for the group? Well, then if not, I will go ahead and call the meeting to order at I will adjourn the meeting at 6:28 p.m.
All right, thank you.